Our guest this episode, Leominster native, current town moderator for the town of Westford, and the admin of the Facebook group Leominster My Hometown, Susan Spuhler. And we also have Fitchburg's own Maurico Cordoza. Thank you for joining us. Issue 1. For the first time in the over 100-year tradition of the Thanksgiving Day game between Leominster and Fitchburg high schools, it was rescheduled because officials decided it was too cold to play football. This follows decisions last summer to call off school on days when it was deemed too hot for the children to go to school. Cindy, are we getting a little too snowflakey when it comes to decisions nowadays, or are officials making the right call?
I think we're getting too snowflakey. I watched some of the other teams that played that day and in other surrounding towns, and some of them actually had short sleeves on, and they were out there playing, and they made it through the day. And I heard actually quite a few people complain because at nighttime when they had the game, it was really cold because there was no sun to keep them warm, so the wind and everything, so they were just as cold. So I don't know that it really served a purpose. It changed everybody's schedule. I think they should have left it alone.
Susan?
I think they should have left it alone as well. Back in 2014, remember when it snowed and people were out there shoveling off all the seats? I was out there doing that. Very few of us were out there doing that. But anyways, I think that they should have left the schedule as it was.
Mauricio?
I think in terms of like the temperature, it can have some sort of like health concern in terms of like the low of the temperature. I know there's frostbite concerns. I know it's winter in New England and we're used to this cold weather, but when you have a lot of people going into an event and it's that cold, I think it's a safety issue. Like, you know, you don't want to get people hurt or have to go to the hospital for any reason because of the game. So I think just precaution, and I think they made a good decision to move that to the next day or the day before in this case.
Michael?
Well, believe me, I'm all on board with sometimes identifying where we become a little too sensitive or a little too snowflakey, but sometimes we can go the other way too, and just the stereotype runs away with itself. So every time somebody tries to reschedule something to make something better, we have to turn it into a political issue. Well, it's not necessarily. Now, the separate issue on this one, though, is whether they got it right in the first place. And really, that's per Cindy's comments. I was at that game, and I don't think they got it right in the first place because it probably would have been a little nicer to watch the game at 10 in the morning the following day rather than out in the dark and cold and wind as it was. So, you know, they probably got the decision wrong, but I'm not going to say from a political standpoint that, oh, geez, we're becoming snowflakey. That's a little too. It's a little too lazy of an argument.
Well, we can do the Monday morning quarterbacking on whether the football game was scheduled correctly, on whether they made the, but on the bigger picture here, because this wasn't an isolated incident. This wasn't something that was done on its own. We're seeing schools being called off the night before for an inch of snow, or because it's too cold, or it's because it's too hot. Are these decisions being made correctly for the safety of the kids, or are we really not preparing them for the real world with these kind of causes?
Back in my day, there had to be at least 6 inches of snow on the ground at 6 a.m., and then that's when they would blow the whistle and say there's no school in Leominster.
I mean, it's just being over-politicized, though. It's a convenient lightning rod for the conservatives, for the Trump people to say, oh, look at us, we're becoming a bunch of snowflakes.
Are you really going to make this a conservative liberal
That's what you're doing.
Really?
That's what you're doing.
You think this is a conservative liberal issue?
Yes, you absolutely, from your comments in the flap
Come
group,
on.
from your
can
comments
assure
on
you
this show,
Susan's not a
you
Trump
absolutely treat this like a conservative issue.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Donald Trump was the one that wouldn't even go out in the rain to honor veterans. I doubt that he's the one leading a charge on this.
I'm just saying that you politicize the issue.
Who actually agree with us?
Yeah, what's that?
I said, what does it say to people like Susan that actually agree with us? She's not a Trump
And conservatives
supporter.
like Mauricio who don't. I understand that. I understand that in this particular group of people, we have a diverse group here. But for my friend Mr. Cormier here to disingenuously say that he's not trying to politicalize the issue, is this not Fitchburg-Leominster All Politics TV?
Correct.
So if it's not a political issue, why are you introducing it as a political issue?
Because it's an issue of society and whether or not we're preparing children for the real world. Everything is politics. So again, the bigger picture, not just the football game, but on all these decisions that are being made in terms of canceling school, rescheduling games now, are we going too far?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, pendulums swing the wrong way sometimes.
I have a point. When I was a kid, my mother gave me a ride to school maybe 2 times, and that was because I had a doctor's appointment and would have been late to school. And I look at schools now, you go anytime in the morning or the afternoon, people are dropping their kids off, people are picking their kids up. There's a whole corral of them. Why aren't kids walking home from school anymore? Why aren't they just taking the buses?
And the same thing with the bus stops. I mean, you used to have to, everybody would meet at a common area for a bus stop.
Yeah.
Now they stop at every person's house, and you got to wait for the kid to come out of the house. They're not even waiting at the end of the driveway because, God forbid, he stand outside and be cold for 5 minutes
Or
waiting
get
for the bus.
kidnapped.
And it's like the mother standing at the door with them, so go outside and stand with them.
I always
We
found
did.
that curious because you are behind the bus and the bus stops, and then literally 2 blocks later
Yeah.
the bus stops again. And it's like, why don't you save time and just drop off kids in one area and they can just walk? But,
I must not live in the high rent neighborhood because we have bus stops where we are.
You have sidewalks?
What? Yeah.
Bus stops? Yeah, see, well, ours is every house. They stop at every house.
Yeah.
On it, so
Do you have
God forbid-
sidewalks?
yeah.
I think that has,
No,
yeah,
we
I think
don't.
that has to do, if there's no
Yeah.
sidewalks, they stop at every house. If there's sidewalks,
Yeah.
they have bus stops.
Yeah, it's
I know when I
interesting.
went to school, I went to George Street School. We didn't even have a cafeteria. We had to walk
down to
we had to walk
Northwest.
every day
That's right,
to
down
have
to-
lunch down to
that's right.
Northwest.
That's right.
Regardless of how cold it was,
That's
Michael.
right.
Yeah.
I remember that.
You're just
Even when it was raining, even it was snowing, every day
Right.
we walked down to have lunch at Northwest.
yeah, uphill both ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
How old are you
Uphill.
exactly?
With my trombone, not much older than you.
Oh, geez, you don't act.
I
like
didn't
I
die.
think you were born at 70 years old.
You have me confused with Dave Cormier.
Whatever.
Yeah, no.
Issue 2. Refugees started arriving on the U.S.-Mexico border this week. They were met with tear gas. Susan,
I think
is this country doing the right thing?
I think that people should be welcomed like they were at Ellis Island, except the people's names should be spelled correctly. And they should be checked for health issues like they did on Ellis Island, but use sterile equipment, because back in the day they used to take a pencil, they'd turn back your eyelid to see if you had, I can't remember the name of the disease, but they'd use it on everybody, and then it was contagious, and so that everyone would catch that disease. And then you would be quarantined. So.
Mauricio?
I think this country is doing the good thing. I mean, I think the country is reacting to a situation that doesn't really happen all the time. This amount of a large group of people just coming into the border. I think this country should be very careful to who comes in, carefully vet these people. We don't know who is involved. We know that because of the media, they're children and women, but they're not the majority that are coming in. So we have to make sure who's coming in. We have to be serious. This is a nation that welcomes everyone. A nation that you can be from anywhere in the world and come here and become an American. That's why this country is exceptional, because it gives you that opportunity. But you have to do it the right way. If we just want to just come in like the door's open, there's no laws, there's no country. So we have to stand as a republic that we are and really face this in a humanitarian way. They're humans, they're not animals, they're women and children, that we have to be careful with that. And this administration is not the only one that has gassed people. But we just have to look at it case by case. There's no way we can just let groups of people come in without carefully knowing who they are. I think that's something that they can do. I think they would have the means to do that.
Michael?
Well, in theory, I can agree with a lot of what Mauricio said. The problem is, and not to beat this drum again, but what we're doing and what this administration is doing is politicizing it, okay? There are people on the ground at the border who are trained specifically to separate out the bad guys from the good guys. And instead, what they are doing purposely is making a spectacle. They are purposely making that spectacle with the tear gas, with some of the actions they're doing. They're purposely wanting to get on the headlines of the so-called fake news so that they can rile up their base and rile up their supporters. Why is it in previous years we relied on these experts that were there? We relied on the Border Patrol agents who were there to be able to separate out these people. No, there is chaos here, but in a way it's planned chaos because this administration, I think, is using it for its own ends.
Cindy?
Well, I would say the same thing as Michael, and I think it's politicized on the left. If you remember, and I think our last show, you actually asked me what caravan, because everybody thought, oh, what caravan? I don't see a caravan. Now all of a sudden they're at the border and it's like, oh, there really was a caravan. So what you see on the mainstream media is the women and children. There's probably a half a dozen of them. What you're not seeing is the thousands of young men that are coming over here, and they're waving their country flag because they're so proud to be in their country. Well, they're clearly not running for their lives, or they're in fear for their lives. They're throwing rocks at the border agents, climbing walls, demanding to come in. That's not how you come here. And there's a lot of people who we're all from immigrants. We all got here because we came the right way. So let's vet them if they're truly are coming here for a better life. Let's deal with immigration. We need immigration reform from both sides, and we do need to let people in, but it's got to be done the right way, not just open borders.
Well, the right way, what the law says is that if a refugee wants to seek asylum, they come to the United States. They get into the country and then apply for it. So they came to the country and they were met with tear gas.
Because they're climbing the walls and they're throwing rocks, demanding to be let in.
All of them?
It just doesn't work that way.
Well,
You just
That's
go
what the law
crowds
says.
of
That's how the
people.
law says it works. They come in and then they seek asylum, and then a case, and then they listen
And
to
what
it.
about Mexico offered asylum and they're not taking it? So are you really in fear for your life? Why wouldn't you take asylum at the first country that gives it to you?
Why don't we follow the law? And if that's the determination that's made, then
We
that's
are
the
following the
determination.
law. We're
not
telling them
following
they
the
gotta
law.
come in
We're
the right-
gassing them. And if the law says that they come into the country and then ask to
they
seek
have-
asylum, but we gas them before they could get here, how is that following the law?
Well, we've been doing this all along. That's how we stop them
No,
from
you've
coming
been
in.
campaigning all along. Susan.
From 1892 until 1954, Ellis Island, that's 62 years, allowed people in and vetted them and would quarantine them if they had diseases. And so why weren't there any problems back then for all those years? And why is this happening now?
I think the main reason why is because it's a different type of immigration. People 100 years ago knew why they were coming to this country. They wanted to assimilate into the country. They did not want to bring their country here. The main issue with immigrants today is that they want to come here and impose. I'm Hispanic and I am aware of the Hispanic community and the reasons why they come to this country. 100 years ago, it's a different type of immigration. They want to come and be an American. If they come here waving their flag, I don't know what the reason why they wave their flag. If you're waving a flag, just go back to your country if you love it so much, and not demand another country that will give you absolutely everything, and you have this sort of attitude.
Well, Mauricio, let me ask you a question, though. You said immigration is a lot different now than it was 100 years ago, and I'll agree with you. And one of the big differences is the color of skin. The Polish immigrants who came here, the Irish immigrants that came here, they were white.
Yep.
The immigrants that are coming over aren't.
We didn't have
Well,
welfare back then either.
the Italians.
Well,
Now, as an Hispanic male, you don't think that there's an underlying racist divide that's going on and going through this to politicize this issue?
No, the least thing that I would view this administration or any administration of this country is racist. This country's not racist. It can't be racist. I think that in terms of
Racism doesn't exist?
well, in terms of immigration, I don't think it exists. I think
We're a
if-
melting pot of
if-
all
when people come in with the right attitude,
Yeah.
it can be Japanese, German people, African people, South American people,
Absolutely.
wherever they come from. If they come with the right attitude, America will open the doors, wide open, more than any other country in the world. Wide open doors. But if you come here with a negative attitude towards this country that 100 years ago people did not have, this is the type of response you'll have. You know, whether it's gassing or whatever. I mean, Trump is not the only one that gassed people. Obama did it numerous times. And then no one said a single word about, oh, Obama's gassing people. Obama deported more people than anyone in, any president in history. And that's not something we talk about or highlight because it doesn't fit into the left's sort of view of immigration. But
You want to deport people. Don't make a spectacle about it purposely make a spectacle about it on the news. I mean, as far as this assimilation thing, this issue of legal versus illegal immigration, this issue of assimilation, I think this is all revisionist history. I'm sorry. I mean, Kevin, we're Italian, and our friends on social media, filling up social media with all their recipes and their cookies and their traditions and all that. Why aren't they assimilating, gosh darn it? I mean, why aren't our Italian friends
What about
showing
the North
pictures
End?
of
What about the North End of
meatloaf and
Boston?
casseroles instead
that's
of
American.
all the us Italian food, you know?
That's part of America.
Well, wait.
you know?
Yes,
But
exactly.
nobody's
Bringing
saying
in your
don't bring
culture
in-
is part of America.
There's
Yes.
no race tied to American. You know, there's no ethnicity tied to being American. There's one of the few countries that don't have a race. attached.
America
we have
is the
American
sum of all of
Indians.
us.
Yeah, but I mean that's
The old immigrants and the new immigrants.
Yeah.
All the groups of immigrants that came to this country throughout history have added something to the fabric of this country.
right. But
What's different about this group?
the threat that they won't add to this country.
You don't think they'll add to this country?
Not with the ideas that they bring from South America. South America is infested with far left ideologies that are ruining the continent, the entire continent. I mean, it's
And if your case was true, then why do we let Chinese come over here? We let Africans come over here. We let everybody's coming over here. They're doing it the right way. Why nobody's saying racism there, right?
Susan's chomping at the bit.
I'll pass for now.
I think
Okay.
it's just a threat that is more of in terms of ideas, not people. I mean, I think we should set aside the race issue because I don't think that,
So is what you
plays a
say,
part.
Mauricio, is that we should deny entry into countries because they don't agree with your side politically? They don't agree with conservatives because they're liberals?
Well,
that we should keep liberals out and let conservatives in?
No. When you apply for American citizenship, one of the questions is, are you affiliated with the Communist Party or ever were part of the Communist Party? It's a threat to life. Those ideologies promote a whole bunch of things that this country does not need right now, and unfortunately, we have examples. The entire continent of South America is
Well, perhaps we
in
could
ruin.
Perhaps we could dig up Joe McCarthy and make him the new director of Homeland Security.
McCarthyism, that's right.
Yeah, up until a few years ago, the Communist Party was one of the two major parties. They were basically the version of the Democrats in Italy. So, and I didn't see us restricting, hordes of Italians coming over here. I think that's an overblown threat. I'm sorry, and not every country in South America. I mean, yes, I know the Republicans like to hold up Venezuela and everything
it's
as
not only
as a
Venezuela.
pinata, no pun intended. But in terms of Chile, Argentina, Peru, parts of Brazil just elected it makes somebody that looks Trump look like a liberal.
Well, the tides are turning,
to say
yeah.
that they're all a bunch of communists down there is just not
No,
accurate.
but the people that come here that then will promote these ideas, those same ideas that they fled from, those same ideas do not work here, and they never will. We see it with the Democratic Party, this new wing that's coming in that's trying to, even go against the Democratic leadership. It's just they're gonna, butt heads because it's just that those ideas are too extreme. And those ideas do not work well with a country that stands for freedom.
And our ancestors that came over here also came over here asking to be let in, not being demanding let in. There was no welfare benefits or anything. They came over here knowing they're going to work hard and they're going to become Americans. They became citizens. They did it the right way. And people wait a long
You
time.
said they
and
did
they
it the
go
right
through
way.
that.
There really was no legal or illegal, like Michael
That's
said,
right.
prior to the 1950s or 60s. You just came here.
My
came here and
great-grandfather was a stowaway from Ireland to Philadelphia.
And you let him in. Personally, I don't think we should make judgments on whether or not to let people in or out based on their political leanings and what they offer.
No,
for
we're not-
political
we're not
leanings.
saying the
I think
political
we can
leanings.
make that judgment on what they offer in terms of bringing different types of cuisine into the country.
Yeah, I
We
like
can-
that.
I
we
like
can-
that
we
one.
can
I like
judge
that
it
one.
there.
Are you a
Okay.
good cook? Do you have a good recipe?
Yeah, there
What
you
kind of
go.
cuisine will you
Bring
add
me
to
a
this
casserole,
country?
I'll let you over the border.
Issue 3, as Democrats get ready to take control of the House of Representatives in January, members must decide whether or not Nancy Pelosi should lead them and be the face of the Democratic Party going into the 2020 election. What should they do, Mauricio?
I think they should support Nancy Pelosi. I think she will, as much as the issues and how she stands with them. I think she should halt this new wing of the Democratic Party that will try to take over her party. So I think the best interest for the Republicans is to have her as leadership. And
That's why you want it, because you think it's the best interest of the
Well,
Republicans.
yeah, obviously I think it's the best.
But the
interest
question
for
is, for the Democrats, is it good for the Democrats for her to be the face of the Democratic Party going into 2020?
Well, I'm not, informed much into the internal, wrappings of the party, but I think they should elect her. She's someone that already has been in the position. and I think she will sort of balance the party a bit, you know, and
Is she already elected?
yeah, she's,
Michael, well, she's nominated. She was nominated yesterday, but she still has to,
Yeah,
she
she's
can't
gotta
lose more
lose
than
forever.
17 on the full floor.
Yeah.
Michael?
I see both sides of this, and I'll tell you why. First of all, it would be good to have some new blood, okay? And it would be good to have somebody new come up, have some new ideas, maybe invigorate the party a little bit. The party overall, they had a really tough Senate map in 2018, but overall the party did quite well with state races, with gubernatorial races, with legislative races, and with Congress flipping 40-some-odd seats, okay? So maybe to continue this positive momentum by you know, some new blood, some new ideas. When Clinton rose up, you know, so preceding him were some people that really came out of nowhere and brought some new perspectives and new ideas to the party. Okay, that's one side of it. The flip side of it, though, is look, we have a long tradition of leaders in Congress, the leaders, whether it be Speaker of the House, whether it be Majority Leader. Okay, we have a tradition, whether it be Democrat or Republican. These people are fundraisers, they're deal makers, and they're loathsome people oftentimes. Mitch McConnell, Harry Reid at times, Chuck Schumer at times, Paul Ryan at times. So we sort of have a tradition here where it isn't going to be your best friend up there being the majority leader. And so, hey, if Nancy Pelosi feels is in that mold, where she's the most effective steward of the ship, notwithstanding that personally she might be seen as loathsome, maybe she's the best choice for the job. So I see both sides to it.
Cindy?
I see both sides to it too, surprisingly. She's a powerhouse when it comes to raising money for the Democratic Party, and she is. They're in debt right now, the DNC, on this last election. Word is that they put themselves in debt, so they're going to need her to get the fundraising going, and she has the ability to bring in a ton of money. So they need her in that respect, and they need her leadership in the sense that she's got a lot of power there. But whether she brings new ideas, no, I don't think she does. So I don't know that they're helping themselves by having her. I think they need her more than they should have her, to be honest. Do you know what I'm saying? Like they need her abilities, but she's not necessarily good. If I were a progressive, I wouldn't want her. But I'm not a progressive.
Susan?
She has over 40 years of experience. Well, have you heard of, you know who Harvey Milk is?
yes.
Okay, so you understand that she was the head of the supervisors. Harvey was a supervisor. And it was the 40th anniversary of his murder, as well as George Moscone, who was the mayor back then. So she has a great deal of experience with the state of California, as well as her current position. So I think that it'll be a good thing for her to stay there.
Yeah, I agree.
Going into 2020, the case the Democrats need to make is change, isn't it? Because if they're going to unseat an incumbent president, they need to make a case that we need change. How can you make a case of change with having the tired old face of Nancy Pelosi being the leader of your party?
Well, I think that's the problem with the Democratic Party, even in 2016. I mean, when you look at the Republican primary election in 2016, there was more than 15 people, black, white, women, men, and it shows the diversity the party can have. You look at the Democratic side, and it's just, you know, same old faces that we've seen for decades. And I think they're having an issue with that, even going on into this election. And if they don't bring in these young people that are coming into the party in 2018, they're going to have a tough time to really win the White House.
But it's all about marketing, though. It can be done, and I'll tell you. I mean, in 1994, one of the most successful cases for change, from a marketing standpoint politically, occurred in 1994, the Contract to America, led by Newt Gingrich, who had been in Congress since 1978 and was the very typical old face that you would expect to see. Okay, 2016, 2010, 2012, 2016, the Republican Party to various degrees beat the drum for change. Who were they led by? Mitch McConnell, Paul Ryan. I mean, so it can be done. All right. So, but at the same time, yeah, the fresh face argument. That's why I say there's two sides to this one.
Okay.
Well, you having something?
No, just go on.
So from an ethical standpoint, does it matter on how you get there? And I bring that up because Nancy Pelosi went around the country hosting fundraisers and stuffing the pockets of candidates with money, Lori Trahan being one of them, our new congresswoman coming in, $2,700 a person for 1 hour in a morning in Concord. Then Nancy Pelosi flew in, and now all of a sudden Lori Trahan, who ran as, well, we need change, surprise, surprise, is voting for Nancy Pelosi. If it's not pay for play, if it's not buying votes, it certainly gives the appearance of that kind of impropriety. Does that bother you as a Democrat?
It does, but Lori's my neighbor. She lives in Westford. I've met her at a free event, a Legal Women Voters event. So, as for being able to have an audience with her, it doesn't always necessarily have to be something that you have to pay for. So.
Right, but Nancy Pelosi went in and raised a ton of dough for her, and then Lori's turned around and is voting for her for speaker. Is that
Right,
not
I know
buying
that.
votes?
Well-
Does that bother you?
Well, it does, but on the other hand, we all need people to champion us and to mentor us and help us.
Is there an ethical problem there, Cindy?
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. You know, everybody talks about how crooked the Republicans are. Look at what's going on with that. I mean, that's, you know, you can't call one crooked and not the other.
Well,
It's
fine,
so-
but
it's, you
at
know,
least acknowledge it's been going on for years for both sides.
Oh, absolutely. It's been going on and it continues on. There's no clean party at all out
part
there. I
of
don't care what
politics.
anybody says.
Is that an
So-
excuse, though, Michael? Everyone does it, so it's okay for
No, it's
our
not
new
right.
congresswoman to
No,
do
it's
it?
not right.
It's
But
not
you know
an
what?
excuse
And
at all,
but the
but you know
Democrats
what?
are the ones that always take that step up as if they're above everybody else, and they're no different than anybody else. So don't claim it. You know.
Yeah, because you and Mauricio would like nothing better for us to walk the walk and talk the talk, and then just lose all the elections. Like, you know, like
Not
you
necessarily.
wanted
Maybe I would
Bernie
vote for a
Sanders as a
Democrat again.
nominee for
At
president.
least-
You want all those liberals to come up and just lose everything.
At least,
maybe
at
the
least in the,
Democrats would get me back instead of chasing me
Oh
away.
no, they would.
at least
You were a
in the
Democrat?
Republican
I
Party,
was. I
you know,
voted for Clinton and Gore.
you don't see that. Oh, we're for the common people. We're for social justice. We're for income equality, and then show something else. The Republicans, if they're, like Donald Trump said, if I'm rich, I'm rich. You know, it's the type of mind that we need to run this country. I don't care if you're rich. I don't care if you're poor. But don't say you're poor, you're for the poor, and then you're living this lavish
Yeah,
lifestyle
exactly.
after. And that's just part of the Democratic Party, I think.
And Elizabeth Warren's a prime example of that as well.
Yeah.
She's always pointing out everybody else is rich, so is she.
Well, the hypocrisy worked well this last election. It's all about how the people are feeling in terms of the economy. The people are resigned to the fact that all politicians are hypocrites and all politicians are money grubbers and they all raise money the wrong way.
Yeah.
Okay, it's all about what they're doing and what they're experiencing rather than what the politicians are experiencing. So yeah, the Democrats have to be a little hypocritical to maybe win a few elections. So be it, unfortunately.
You don't think Lori Trahan could have won that race without doing that fundraiser?
Don't know.
Of course she would have won that
Yes.
race.
Don't
Yeah,
know.
I think she would have.
Yes.
All
I
I've
think
heard
she,
was
she had the Lowell
Easily.
area
Why
already.
jump headfirst into the swamp before you're even in office?
An experience,
Is that?
maybe. You know.
She wanted to make sure that if once she got in there, that she got her pick of where she wanted to go, and Nancy Pelosi's her ticket in. So instead of doing the work to get in there,
So getting
she,
a good committee assignment that helps Fitchburg and Lowell and Westford, does it not?
It's not going to help Fitchburg with her.
It's
She
not
doesn't
going to
know where
help
we are.
us.
Well, that's a separate issue.
She didn't even come to Ashburnham, so it's, you know.
That's a separate issue that you're letting cloud your perception of it.
Well, the
Okay.
perception is she went to Nancy Pelosi flew into this district,
Yeah.
stuffed Lori Trahan's pocketbook full of money,
Right.
and now Lori Trahan's going down there and saying, okay, I'm voting for the tired old face of Nancy Pelosi to lead the Democratic Party.
Right.
Which is, questionably, is it in the right,
Where was
correct
this event
interest?
in Concord? I wasn't invited. I'm offended.
I don't know. Anyway, dark meat or white meat on Thanksgiving? What'd you go for?
We went to a buffet. I got a turkey leg,
Dark meat.
dark meat.
I actually do both, so I like it.
Both sides, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, both sides.
White meat or dark meat?
The turkey I had